All right, we got a crazy segment here for you guys. Welcome back to the show. So Jasmine Lane and Mark Nixon have posted on their X account regarding the MAID program. Right, I'm sure you know it's basically it's I know how to say it. I just YouTube's terms of service. There's words you can't use, so it's like assistance in being unalived, basically, right? You all know what that is. And the Liberals want to expand this MAID program to those suffering from mental illness, and they refuse to listen to those calling it inhumane. Now, Jasmine Lane said, "Crazy. I recall the Canadian press releasing a full article citing my comments on this and calling it misinformation, and also pointing out conspiracy theory, right-wing social media." God, don't you love those terms? As I've long said, the thing I love most about being dubbed a conspiracy theorist by the media is that within a few months, I'm right. And that's exactly true. Now, I don't know about Mark Nixon, but I know Jasmine Lane has been pretty public about her struggles with mental health. I've mentioned it very briefly on this channel before. I'm 36, been mentally ill my whole life. Ranging from really bad levels of anxiety, depression. A lot of people go through this. I'd like to talk about it more on the channel, but the way the algorithm works, you got to kind of stick with your niche. But the Liberals want to keep expanding this MAID program. That's not what it was meant to do. So we got a segment here. MP Tamara Jansen basically calls out the Liberals on this, so we're going to have a quick look at this video. It's a couple of minutes long now. Before we do get into it, please do not forget to like and subscribe. It really does help grow the channel, and I appreciate you so much. So let's get into this, and then we'll talk about it after like usual.
Imagine your son or daughter battling depression for some time after losing a job or maybe a broken relationship. Imagine they feel the loss so deep that they're convinced the world would be better off without them. Now imagine this. Starting in March 2027, under Canadian law, they could walk into a doctor's office and ask them to end their life. And under our law, the system could legally do just that. Our society could end his or her life for solely a mental health challenge. That's not a future scenario. That's the law right now waiting to take effect. The Liberal government has already had to delay this law twice. Why? Because medical experts and legal scholars have raised the alarm again and again, saying it's impossible to implement safely. Clinical experts have warned that there's no evidence-based way to determine if someone with a mental illness would get better, and most do. But still, the government is moving forward. And the message it sends? That struggling Canadians, trauma survivors, battling depression...
Order. I'll interrupt the member briefly. The Honourable Chief Government Whip on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member seems to be giving a speech on the subject matter of the bill she's introducing. The point of this is to introduce the bill and give a quick summary of the bill. She hasn't even mentioned the bill yet or what is in it.
Maybe let her finish, jackass.
I thank the member for the intervention. We do allow a brief summary and explanation of the bill. The member is well within her time at this point. Order. The honourable member for Cloverdale, Langley City, carry on where she left off.
The message it sends that struggling Canadians, trauma survivors, those battling depression, schizophrenia, PTSD, are being told that death is a solution we're now willing to offer in response to a life of suffering, often compounded by harm this very society has caused them. That's not healthcare. That's not compassion. It's abandonment. Mental illness is treatable. Recovery is possible, but only if we show up and help. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are watching, and they need us to stand up for life, for dignity, for hope. It's my honor and privilege to rise today and introduce an act to amend the criminal code on medical assistance in dying.
All right, so I'm glad Tamara Jansen called that out. Again, I've been struggling with mental health my whole life, so I have a lot to say on this issue. Now, I've had CBT therapy. I've had sessions, hundreds of sessions with people who are therapists, psychotherapists, CBT specialists, etc., etc., etc. Now, a lot of the time when you go there, they'll say things like, well, we need to retrain the way that your brain is, thinking, basically, right? It's like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? It's to basically like train your brain out of being or feeling like these anxious feelings. Now, it's been probably about 15 years or so, or maybe a little bit less than that, since I've seen a CBT therapist, so I don't remember exactly what it was like. But they don't really do much to help you. They just talk to you for an hour and they give you some homework and hopefully you feel better. The other option would be you go to your family doctor and they'll give you some lorazepam, tenazepam, all the drugs that ends in pam, right? Maybe they'll give you a Xanax. But they're going to give you something that has side effects of what you're feeling. So if you have anxiety, what's the prime side effect of these drugs? Anxiety, depression. There are a lot of people who take those medications and they get much, much worse. So what do? As Tamara said, we need to help people. The problem is, though, is that we're not really doing anything to help people. There's a few people doing it. So I'll give you a little brief background of what I did that started to help me. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is just what I decided to do. I started to look at my hormones, which is very rare for men to do in general, but especially young men. I was like 28 at the time. And I started to really look into this. What's going on? I just happened to be watching an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. And again, he's not a doctor. I'm just saying, he had a doctor on with a patient that had so bad, his depression was so bad, he was very, very close to unaliving himself. And they checked his hormones and they were so low. It was like a miracle, basically, that they could even get that low. So they started giving him testosterone replacement therapy. Not to bulk him up so he can get a bunch of muscles, but so that he could have optimal levels of hormones. And then he started feeling better. And then better and better. And now he's, at least a few years ago, last time I kind of listened to that podcast, he was doing better. A lot better. Living a nice life. Which is what we need. Now the problem is that doesn't work for everyone either. The whole thing that I'm trying to say here is that you got to keep looking for ways to help. Or get help. Or to help yourself. There's certain things, like my diet isn't the best, but I also try not to eat a bunch of carbs. Your blood sugar is going to fluctuate up and down. That causes anxiety sometimes. So there's always a bunch of things you can do. What the liberals are advocating for is that, well, we've helped, we've done everything they could, and they're suffering, so we'll just let them end their lives. That is a horrific and sick approach. What we need to do is continue to do research on what actually helps, push out the pseudoscience that has been pushed onto us. These medications only work for about 30% of people. They also make about 30% of people worse, contributing to more people unaliving themselves. And if you look at those numbers are continuing to go up to this day. So we're not doing a good enough job figuring out what's going on and getting it out of whether it's the food, the water, people talk about chemicals in the air. People talk about, all kinds of stress. Well, today's society is, it moves so fast, and, there's so much fear mongering going on. Everyone's scared all the time. They're anxious, and it's probably a bit of everything. They used to say that depression or mental illness, a lot of mental illnesses were a chemical imbalance. And I can tell you right now that is 100% horseshit. It is not a chemical imbalance. There's an imbalance, but when they say chemical imbalance, that's just a vague way of saying, hey, something's wrong with you. They can't actually define what that means. And if you ask 10 different doctors, you're going to get 10 different explanations. So what we need to keep doing is, hey, apparently hormones really help out men when they need them. Don't start taking it if you don't need them. And just because you do start taking it if you need them, that doesn't mean it's going to fix every problem. I still have mental health issues, but the quality of life is better than it used to be for sure. Do I need to eat better? Yeah. Do I need to start working out more? Yeah. I still have improvements to do on my end as well. This isn't just something that you're going to take a magical pill and start feeling better. You have to improve your life as well. You need help, but you also got to put in some of the work yourself. You got to understand that, hey, if I do this, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a path for me to feel better, and live a quality life. Because when you're mentally ill, when you're just anxious, I was so anxious I used to throw up in the morning. It was nuts. And it was ruining my life. Like I wasn't working. I was just constantly just in this state of just anxiousness and feeling sick. And then you don't have any money. You don't have a future. And then all of a sudden depression starts to kick in. And it gets worse and worse and worse. Now, what is depression? It's inflammation of the brain. Well, when you're stressed out all the time, you're going to get a lot more inflammation in your brain. So that being said, the liberals can't just say, well, hey, we did everything. So, look, you didn't do everything. Okay? We have to do actually everything and make sure that and by the way, no political party is even talking about what's in our food. They're not talking about what's in the water. So they're not even addressing that, and that's both parties' fault. I've been saying this for a while. Robert Kennedy Jr. is the only one doing this, and he's doing it in the States. I wish we had a guy like that here, but we don't. So what do? Well, we better get one. We better make sure that people start to understand there's many, many factors to mental health issues. There's many solutions as well. We just have to keep looking for them. There's also a bunch of people get misdiagnosed, etc., etc., etc. You see what I mean here. There's so many problems, and mental health is such a complicated issue. And it's something that if we don't pay a lot of attention to, it's going to keep getting worse. And then you're going to have a whole society filled with sick people, which we pretty much already have. That's not good. The more sick you are, the more dependent you are. And that's not good for anybody. You don't want to be dependent your whole life. You want to be independent so that you can live a quality life and do things that you want to do. Life isn't meant to be, sitting there depressed, crying your eyes out, shaking because you have so much anxiety. That's not what life is for. But there's some people who are struggling with that, and the numbers are increasing. We haven't even flattened the curve, if you know what I mean. These numbers are increasing rapidly, especially with young men and women. Young men and women used to be happy. They're miserable now. Why? Well, they have no future. They have no goals. People are so divided. No one wants to date anymore. No one trusts anybody. Society is so degenerate, it's just, you don't even want to go outside. So we got a lot of problems to fix if we're going to fix the mental health issues. And the liberals' plan, we tried everything. The conservatives, at least they seem like they at least acknowledge that we have not tried everything. We need to keep going, and we need to really figure out what's happening. And if Pierre or any of the conservative MPs listen to this message, and if you know them, share it, send them an email, and maybe they'll listen to me. Not that I'm a doctor, but I can give you I can give them the names of some doctors, and then they can talk to them and maybe work in some programs, some bills that they can get passed, making it, say, easier to get testosterone replacement therapy. Not that you should just go to the drugstore and get it, but it took me 2 years to get it. My doctor has told me that he had lost patients that were in the waiting list because they unalived themselves because they couldn't get help. Now, again, it's not the end-all be-all. Some people take testosterone replacement therapy. It doesn't help them that much. But if it's something you haven't tried and has never been available to you, you have to wonder, why? Why is there only 1 or 2 doctors in the region that I live in even willing to do this? I've had doctors tell me things that, if you take testosterone replacement therapy, you'll never be able to have kids, and yada, yada, yada. They're convincing me not to do it. And then you have the whole, what's the optimal level of testosterone? There's so many things you can get into, and I don't want to ramble on and on here. But if the conservatives want to take this stance, and they should, they also need to understand this is a huge problem in society today, and it needs to be looked at. And it needs to be, we need to have more funding into more research. Hey, what causes this? And then we need to spend money to get rid of it. You're not just going to be able to say, all right, we're going to just automatically fix this. Like, you're going to have to spend you're going to have people on the ground really making sure that, say, let's say, you know, we have some chemical in the Pepsi that we drink. And we do some research, we find out, and then you send someone like a Canadian version of RFK Jr. to handle it and make sure that chemical is out of it, and keep working and finding what else are we eating, what else are we drinking, what else is in the air, what else could possibly be causing this. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is that we need to do a lot of research, and there's a lot of reasons that cause mental health issues, and when people have it and it gets worse and worse, you can't just say, okay, you can give up, because we haven't tried everything. MAID is for if all else fails and the life has no quality. Some 25-year-old with depression can't be going to the doctor saying, okay, take my life. That's not right. We should be doing everything we can to help them, and it seems like we don't. We just let them rot. We let them be homeless. Why are people homeless? Two major reasons. Major mental health issues and major drug addiction. Seems like the liberals don't want to fight it. It seems like the conservatives do, and that's, again, another reason why I am on Team Conservative. Not because I am a staunch conservative. Never voted conservative before except at this election. But they're making sense. Pierre Poilievre, what does he say all the time? Common sense. Well, Mr. Poilievre, it's common sense to do more research and investigate what's really going on, what's causing these mental health issues, and how we can fix it. So I really hope that you see this, or one of your MPs sees this, and they can understand how deep this is and how far we are behind, and we need to catch up. But let me know what you think in the comments. You don't have to get too personal about your own struggles. I understand a lot of people do. Just share with me whatever you're comfortable with sharing. Also, again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back shortly with a new video.